Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and part 2 of the Tamiya 148 scale F-16CJ Fighting Falcon. So today in part 2 I'm actually going to get started, and like usual with almost any aircraft kit I've ever worked on, start with the cockpit. So I'm going to start cutting out parts, painting stuff, gluing stuff together, and we'll come back and see how things are going. Alright, let's do a quick check-in here. I'm up to step 4, and here are a few notes. Actually, no real notes on steps 1 and 2. Step 3, nothing really there. Step 4, it probably would have been easier to paint this part right here, which is black. Semi-gloss black. It would have been easier to paint that before I glued this section onto the bottom section, but no big deal. Something to take note of depending on which version you're building. This front panel right here needs to be chosen appropriately. And other than that, nothing really to talk about. So as far as the fit and everything goes, you know, it's the typical deal. It fits together really well. No problems at all, really. It looks like so far the seam lines are in natural seam line areas, so there's no need for filling or sanding or anything like that. But otherwise it's going together really well. I'm digging it. I've opted to I did a little bit different, something a little bit different on these panels on the sides. What I did was I sprayed the cockpit in the gray, and for that I used medium gray from this Ammo by MIG, which I really like. It's so far so good, so I may have stumbled onto something here with the paint. But I sprayed all that, then I taped off the actual controls instruments here on the sides. Taped those off, sprayed those, then I just used some silver to highlight all of the buttons and knobs and all that stuff. But then it was still looking kind of flat, and it has some really nice not panel lines, but gaps between these individual segments of knobs and such. So I mixed me up a batch of 502 Abteilung Buff. I didn't want to use just stark white. Made myself a what I would call a medium wash, not real thin, not real heavy, and just did a kind of a pin wash on the whole thing. Then I used one of my Tamiya swabs and kind of blotted the flat areas and soaked up some of it, and it left a really nice fine deposit around the controls. Whether or not that's realistic or not, probably not, but it really makes everything in there pop. So once it's together and you look in there, you can actually see that those are control surfaces. So really stoked with how that turned out. So that's pretty much that. I did have to clamp some things, but that was just mainly because I didn't want to hold it, and I wanted to create some counter pressure on it, like this one here. There was a little bit of a step, so I just applied pressure here and pulled it with this clamp, and it lined it up. I'd already glued this one, so it was nice and solid. So far so good. Real quick, as many of you may know that watch my channel, I use this circle cutter right here for making masks for like tank wheels and stuff like that. But I can also use it for really, really small stuff. Now, I don't know if you can see how close I have that, but that's the size of mask I'm making for these lights right here. And that's what it looks like with it applied. Man, it works really, really good. It's pretty inexpensive and available from the FlexiFile website. So if you think you'd like to get one, I'd say check it out and give it a shot, because this thing has been indispensable for making circle masks for various and sundry things, i.e. that right there. Now, I use Tamiya tape, so I don't know if that makes a difference, but I've also used it on just regular green painter's tape, like this stuff here, frog tape, for example. So, really cool thing. Might check it out. All right, the next part is to assemble the nozzle. So here is where some aftermarket comes in. So here are the parts for the nozzle. I've already, let's see. So here's the way it's supposed to line up. Here's the photo etch part that goes here. So I'm going to cut all these off of the casting blocks, get them cleaned up and ready to go. And the way I cut them off is I use this handy dandy X-Acto saw that I've had forever. And the way these are poured, I like the way they're poured because you can do one section at a time and just work your way around, and makes it a little easier. I think I'll hold this part since it's the stout part. So I just saw this off. Now, before I actually get cutting on this, I'm going to wear a dust mask because the dust in this apparently is like really not good for you. So I'll saw these off, get them all ready, and then come back and show you how to clean them up with some sandpaper. So after I cut a part off, I get some wet and dry sandpaper, wet it, and then just gently sand it smooth, like that. All right, let's take a real quick look at how everything looks. So first we have this part. This is the kit part, and it basically drops down inside of here. Okay, but that's the kit part. This is the part that comes with the resin set. You get this nice photo etch part that goes on top of here. So there's that. Then you actually have this tubular part here, and as you can see, this has a few ridges in there. This has a whole bunch of ridges, so more detail. Then there's this part here, which this doesn't even have. Okay, and it fits inside of here, I'm assuming. Yeah, it fits inside of there, but it's just much more detailed. Whoops, I had it upside down. Much more detailed. And then you have the actual nozzle part itself. I think they call this the tulip, maybe? I'm not sure. But it looks a whole lot different. This has just got ridges running down. This has got just, I don't know. This looks good, and it would work just fine, but I think myself that this just looks better. And basically the way it fits together, this goes in here, this part is here, and this part's on, whoops. That's it. So just a lot more detail. Looks really good. So I'm going to get the stuff glued together, start painting it and all that business. Okay, so now I'm ready to prime all of these parts here. This part here is done this far. So I'm going to prime this stuff here, and then I'll be ready to start painting some of it. Some of it will be white, some of it will be the color of, you know, the aircraft. Okay, so right now I'm getting ready to, since I'm wanting to do some final painting and priming and painting and stuff like that, I'm attempting to use the Edward masks. And I have to say, I've used these before and they've been great. This one here, horrible. I would not recommend these if all of them are like this. And here's the reason why. When you try and peel these things off, you start peeling them off, well, it's not cut all the way through. And it's so faint, it's almost impossible to cut it correctly to make up for it. So I'm just really not stoked at all. I generally, you know, can take things well, but not digging them. So just some food for thought. So I'll do like I should have done from the get-go, and I'll just make my own masks using Tamiya tape, both the flexible vinyl type and just the regular yellow stuff. So I'm going to work on that a little bit and then come back. All right, so I have the primer down on the fuselage and a lot of the small parts. So right now I'm going to do some paint on the instrument panel here and on the seat. So let's take a look here, and we'll do this first. Actually, it's not paint I'm going to do, but decal. So I'm going to hang tight on that and go ahead and start doing some detail painting on this. So let's see, the cushion has XF49, which is khaki or khaki, depending on where you're from. But for that, I'm going to use Vallejo model color. So while that seat is drying, I just sprayed the gray on that. I'm going to start assembling all of the pylons and such, weapons, wing tanks, centerline tank, get all that stuff prepped and ready to go so I can get that primed and painted. Okay, so I've got all this stuff assembled, primed, ready to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is paint my light compass ghost gray on the lower surfaces and the appropriate parts that need it. Alright, so here is how everything looks after getting the underside color on. So I think this is a good point to end this video. And next time when I come back, I will start spraying the upper surfaces and get all the main colors laid down. Then I can work on detail stuff like repainting in here, painting the front bay and gear, start working on the nozzle, stuff like that. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and the 1/48 scale Tamiya F-16CJ Block 50 Fighting Falcon. With that, I will see you all later.